Hey, what's up, everybody? Mike from Comic Book Fans here. So, the following video is actually a kind of a mashup of our reviews for WandaVision episodes 6, 7, and 8. We're kind of busy, so we didn't actually get 6 and 7 out there on time, so we basically just decided to release all three of them at the same time. So I'm going, I've sectioned these off. So in the timestamps, there are timestamps down below in the description. If you just want to skip to a certain episode, they're there for you, so you don't have to watch the whole video. If you want to watch the whole video, hope you enjoy it. But just wanted to let you know before you watch this video that that's why it's so long, and that's why it's just sectioned off into 3 sections. So hope you enjoy.
Peep Squad. This is the Casual Comics review of WandaVision. We weren't here last week, so we're going to touch a little bit on that. But my name is Luke, and I'm joined today with Mike from Comic Book Fans.
Hello, everyone.
And so, let's talk a little bit about last week.
Yeah.
The Halloween not Modern Family. That was this week. Malcolm in the Middle was last week.
Right, exactly. Malcolm in the Middle. Yeah, I recognized that pretty quick from the intro, and they had the same font and everything, and even talking into the camera. That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. One thing that I want to say that isn't really related to the episode, Pietro's Halloween costume was the classic Quicksilver with the hair sticking up like that.
Yeah.
I remember doing this once in high school. I did my hair like that one time.
Really?
Maybe more than once, but I do remember that. Because I really liked Quicksilver, and so I was like, I'm going to put my hair like that.
Ah, cool. Yeah, I noticed that right away. Like, I think in the comics, his hair's a little bit shorter, usually, so it doesn't look quite as wild, but it's still pretty... I thought that, yes, speaking of the costumes, I did like throughout the episode that they all had their classic costumes, like, obviously. Pietro had the classic. Like, they were all, like, really homemade versions, so they looked really lame, but to be honest, the original costumes in the comics were cheesy to begin with a little bit.
Sure.
But I still think, they made them look extra cheesy. But yeah, like even Wanda and Vision kind of had like homemade versions of their original comic.
And
costumes. And even the kids.
Billy and Tom. Yeah. Well.
But yeah, I think another really noteworthy thing from the last week's episode was that the twins have powers. I said a few weeks ago, I was wondering if they were actually going to give the kids powers, have their Wiccan and Speed powers, and like they pretty obviously are doing that. I feel like at this rate they're probably going to keep them kids throughout the rest of the series, but obviously they have their powers, so that's interesting. Which really makes me wonder, like, who the hell are these kids? Because I believe in the comics, Wanda basically created them herself, because obviously Vision doesn't, he's a freaking android, so he doesn't have any sort of genetic material to pass on. So I'm wondering, like, where these kids are coming from. Are they going to have it like the comics where she creates them herself with reality altering, or did she somehow, like, steal them or something? But if she stole them, why do they have powers that are so related to her and Pietro, you know?
Right.
And they did actually address Pietro looking different in this episode, which I was really hoping they were going to, because otherwise it'd be really weird. But the whole episode, Wanda was kind of weirded out that Pietro looked so different.
Right.
And then she even asked him why he has a different face, basically, and he sort of brushed it off as like, well, you didn't want to be reminded of your brother or something like that,
Right. On Pietro, there was that one scene where we saw his corpse, and it wasn't Aaron Taylor Johnson. It was Evan Peters.
Yeah, which makes me think maybe those flashes are just in her head. They aren't really what they look like, because I feel like if maybe it's just a continuity thing, like maybe it was just like if filming thing they didn't feel like bringing back Aaron Taylor Johnson. But I feel like if it really was a glimpse at reality, then why was it Evan Peters as the corpse instead of Aaron Taylor Johnson?
Yeah. Just on a side note, there was the Kick-Ass reference.
Oh yeah, that was funny. Yeah, when I first heard that, that was. I forget, because Pietro something about like, or no, I think her kid said this. Oh man, this is gonna be kick ass, and then she was like kick
Yeah.
ass. It's funny
Yeah.
because both Quicksilver actors, Aaron Taylor Johnson and Evan Peters, were in Kick Ass. Obviously, Aaron Taylor
Right.
Johnson was the main character, and Evan Peters was one of his best friends. But yeah,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was funny. Funny. Like, do you think that was on purpose? That reference?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it probably was too. Like, I feel like a lot of people who watch this wouldn't get it, but I feel like the writers knew what they were doing. The other thing in last week's episode was like Vision's obviously figuring everything out, and he even did
Right.
that, mind thing to Agnes, which yeah, that threw me off for a second. I was thinking like either maybe, because they've been building up for a while with little hints that Agnes isn't really the same. Like you said earlier in a different review we
Right.
did, that Sword doesn't have an actual like profile for her in the real world, you know.
Yeah.
And I think there were a few other smaller hints that they dropped, making it seem like Agnes was at least different than everybody else. But then in this
Hmm.
episode 6, Vision, touched her head or whatever, and she acted like
Right.
everybody else did when he woke them up. And I was thinking like there's other like two options, like she's like all that stuff were red herrings, or she really,
Yeah.
or she's faking, which we know the
Yeah.
answer now, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Um, I think the only other thing that was really super noteworthy was when Vision tried to get out of the hex, and he almost got torn
Right.
apart. Which I
Hmm.
thought it could have been two things. One, um, Vision for whatever reason cannot leave,
Yeah.
or it was that special thing Wanda did, like in episode 5, I think, with the extra protection. She like did something where like a red force field went around the hex that wasn't there before. And
Oh, okay.
maybe like nobody can leave, which would be a little bit dark, when you
Yeah.
think about it, if everybody would be torn apart like Vision. But I think in this episode 7, uh,
Hmm.
Darcy suggested that Vision couldn't leave the hex, so maybe it is special to him that he can't leave without being torn apart.
Yeah. The interesting thing about it is that I thought, well, the reason why he couldn't leave was because he was dead. But if that were the case, I think he would just drop dead as soon as he
Right.
left.
Plus,
But he didn't. He kind of was just disintegrating, like you mentioned.
right. Plus, it seems like everything Wanda's been doing to alter reality has stayed the same. Like once it's
Right.
changed, it's changed. So why would Vision be different? It's yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm guessing they'll tell us that in future episodes, but
Hmm.
yeah. Well, yeah. And then obviously at the end of episode 6, Wanda expanded the hex so that like
Right.
most of the sword base was covered and most of the sword agents were assimilated, even
Yeah.
Darcy.
Hmm.
And Vision was obviously safe at that point. And it was funny. It was interesting because Wanda basically like launched Pietro like across town square because he said like
Yeah.
it's not like he can die twice.
Hmm.
Yeah, which is so. Oh yeah, that was something else too. I wanted to mention that it seemed like Pietro had a really intimate knowledge of everything, whereas
Yeah.
nobody else, like Vision has no memory. Her kids don't really know what's going on, but Pietro seemed to know that like she was pretty much in control, and like even discussed like the morality of it and everything, which I
Yeah.
find it interesting. Like if Wanda brought him there, why does he know so much?
Hmm. Hmm.
But yeah, I think that's pretty much everything from episode 6.
Yeah.
Now on to this week's episode 7, which I think was called something like Breaking the Fourth Wall or something.
Break the fourth wall. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's funny too. We said in another video that they don't have titles, and then I went and
Yeah.
looked, and I was like, they do. I don't know how I missed that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, this episode was interesting, for
Yeah.
sure.
The Modern Family Office,
Yeah.
kind of 2010s era.
Yeah, it was more
Uh,
like styled off of Modern Family. I think I haven't really watched much of Modern Family, but the
yeah.
intro was very Office-esque. They
Yes.
even made the song sound like it. The theme
Hmm.
song is funny.
Hmm. And just something interesting is that the actor for Darcy, I don't remember her name, but she kind
Yeah,
of got like
Kat Dennings.
her first big role was in this era, Two Broke Girls.
Right, that's true. That's true. And well, it's funny too because both Evan Peters and Randall Park were on The Office for like
Oh yeah.
I think Evan Peters was an intern for a few episodes, and
Mm.
then Randall Park was like Asian Jim for like
Yeah.
one episode, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was interesting this episode the way Vision and Darcy sort of teamed up.
Hmm.
I thought that was actually kind of funny. It was kind of like weird for a while there because I thought it was weird how they were driving around in that van or that ice cream truck, and the whole time I'm thinking like, can't Vision just fly? And then like they kept getting blocked in the road. And I'm like, and then all of a sudden Vision's like, he even said like, why am I sitting here talking to you guys? And he just flew off. I'm like,
Right.
there we go, okay.
Yeah.
This episode, Agnes took care of the kids.
Right.
Um, Wanda basically woke up and it's kind of weird. They basically jumped from her like expanding the hex to her just like waking up the next morning in her costume, and she seemed really
Right.
like drained. And then she seemed really tired. And then her kids were just watching TV, but they started to tell her that their video games were acting up and everything, which
Yes.
led to a lot of crazy stuff happening this episode with
Hmm.
seems like reality. But yeah, it seems like Agnes took the kids off Wanda's hands so she could have like a day to relax or whatever. But then while she was relaxing, she saw like it seemed like she was really losing control of everything. Like
Yes.
the
Yeah.
eras of the furniture was, and even the house was changing to like reflect different eras, and she kept
Hmm.
changing it back, but it kept not working. And even the walls were sort of like phasing in and out,
Right. Right.
which I'm guessing she's like losing control or something.
Yeah, because it's a bigger surface area, and so there's
Yeah.
less bandwidth, I guess you could say.
In this episode, we learn that Project Cataract is actually something to do with Vision. Hayward was trying to
Yeah.
animate Vision, basically, probably to
Mhm.
make to kind of make him like their personal Avenger or something, like
Right.
kind of
Right.
probably try to control him, which is interesting. And another interesting thing is that this episode seems to take place, or not this episode, but this series seems to take place like right after Endgame, pretty much.
Yes. Yes. So it's
It's
before Spider-Man. Far from home.
right, which took place like 2 or 3 months after Endgame.
Right.
So yeah, I did hear that, but then today or not today, but like in the episode,
Yeah.
Vision said that for Wanda, like Darcy explained to Vision everything that happened, basically with him in his life. How he was created to be like basically a shell for Ultron, and then
Hmm.
all that stuff and how Thanos killed him and all that jazz, and then he learned more about Wanda, what she's been through, and he said like for Wanda, this all happened just a few like weeks ago, or he said something like that.
Right. Because in
Crazy.
episode 4, that takes place. That was the first out of the Hex episode. That takes
Right.
place 3 weeks after Endgame.
Yeah.
And in that episode, they said that Vision was stolen 9 days prior. So it's about like a 2.5 weeks after, if my math is correct.
Okay. Switching over to like Monica, what's going on with her?
Ah, yeah.
Like, I was wondering this whole series if they were gonna give her powers, her photon
Hmm.
powers or whatever name you want to give her. She has like 8 of them, but
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
I last episode Darcy saw her blood work and it showed that her cells were changing.
Right.
And in Marvel Land, of course, that means you're getting powers. Not that you're gonna
Yeah.
die soon.
Hmm.
So I was thinking the next time she went into the Hex, she was gonna get powers. That just seemed like the
Yeah.
obvious next step, especially if you know who Monica Rambeau is in the comics. And then this episode, she actually went into the Hex, but by herself because her stupid, her little like rover pod didn't actually
Right.
get through. Somehow she did. I don't know, but anyway, so she broke through, but it totally altered her. And
Hmm.
for a second there, you saw like all the different versions of her that the Hex had made, and then at the
Right.
end she pops out and she's got like this weird like thing where she can sort of see like almost like radiation or something. Yeah, it's almost like
Yeah.
she can
Yeah.
see energy.
Her powers in this look an awful lot like the CW powers to me. Like when she's thrown onto the sidewalk and it's like that blue kind of thing going on.
Yeah, yeah.
It looks kind of cheap, but
A
I don't
little
know.
bit, but I mean, this is a big budget. Maybe by the end,
Yeah.
it'll actually be pretty cool. Cause
Yeah.
I know her
Yeah.
main power in the comics was she could basically absorb and manipulate energy,
Right.
especially radiation. She was sort of like, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Captain Atom from DC,
Not super familiar.
but he's basically just a being of pure energy encased in like a humanoid suit. and he has
Mm.
very similar powers, like super strength and flight and all that. But he can also absorb radiation and shoot it out and stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm guessing by the end of these, I'm guessing by the end of this season, we'll see her actually use her powers.
Hmm.
And I'm assuming they're going to use the name Photon because
Yeah.
in the Sword headquarters they showed a plaque of her mom and it said like Maria Photon Rambo, you know. So
Right.
Monica confronts Wanda in this episode, and Wanda, you know, starts to throw her out. Then she just sort of slams her on the ground, but Monica managed to just like somehow absorb her shock with energy or whatever. So
Hmm.
it'll be interesting to see them flesh out her powers. Especially like I was a little disappointed with what they were doing with Monica at first in the Marvel Cinematic Universe because I don't know a whole lot about her, but I know she's a pretty interesting character by herself. But they basically
Right.
made her significance they basically only made her significant because she knew Captain Marvel in like the Captain
Yeah.
Marvel movie, and I was like,
Yeah.
really? Like she didn't really have anything to do with Carol in the comics for at least for a long time. So
Hmm.
and so then I assume they're gonna bring her back in Captain Marvel too, and again she would just sort of be like an attachment of Captain Marvel. But I do like
Yeah.
in this show they're making her like one of the main characters, and she's really like standing on her own as her own character, which I'm glad of.
Yeah. Yeah. I think in the comics, their only real connection is that they were both had the title of Captain Marvel. I'm not sure if they interacted at all with each other.
Right, which maybe at some point, like there's so many different interactions and so many different comics over the years, but
Right.
I know Monica had the moniker of Captain Marvel before, like years before Carol did, and she didn't even know about Marvel or Carol when she took that name.
Hmm.
So yeah, I don't know, but yeah, it'll be interesting. I know she's supposed to be in Captain Marvel too, so I hope she's.
Yeah.
It seems like she's actually going to be an interesting character, so hopefully she's not just like
Yeah.
you know, I hope they bring that to the Captain Marvel 2,
Uh-huh.
movie and make her an interesting character, not just kind of a sidekick to Carol.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, Agnes takes
yeah,
Wanda into her house, and then they go to the basement. And so one thing that's interesting is that when they go to the basement, the aspect ratio changes.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
so it
think
kind of hints that they're like leaving the hex or whatever, and they're kind
yeah,
of going back to the real world, I
it's showing
guess.
reality, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I gotta say I didn't expect the twist. I did expect Agnes to kind of be behind it. Like I think I even like said that in my breakdown of the trailer like months ago. I was it was sort of like a wild theory at that point, but it seemed more
Yeah.
and more like they were doing that
Hmm.
as the series progressed. I did not expect that character though. Like you said her name earlier, Agatha Harkness.
Yeah.
I had heard the name. I wasn't super familiar with her. The
Mhm.
funny thing is, she's not actually a villain usually in the comics. I
Right.
think her son is a villain, Nicholas Scratch, which is
Hmm.
funny because her rabbit's named Senior Scratchy
Yeah.
in the show. But she's actually not a villain. She's actually like super old, but she was actually one of the witches from the Salem witch trials, but she survived.
Right.
And but she was actually apparently one of the ones that helped Wanda like master her magic abilities.
Hmm.
But in this, obviously, she's not. So who knows what her plan is or what her
Right.
backstory is. But that was an interesting twist. I gotta say, like, I may be mildly disappointed, and by that I
Yeah.
mean I was hoping for a cooler villain like Nightmare or Mephisto. I know it would have been a
Right.
little on the nose because a lot of fans have been speculating that it was going to be Mephisto or Nightmare for the last like year.
Hmm.
But I still think it'd be cooler to have a villain like that because they're just so like sinister and like mess up your mind and everything, especially Nightmare. Marvel can be intense in some other movies, mostly because of the directors. They are very much kind of like almost censored for TV. Like
Right.
are obviously never make it too intense so that younger kids can't watch it. They never make it
Yeah.
so like scary or stuff. Like I know even Scott Derrickson left or not Captain. He left Doctor Strange too because
Yeah.
he was under the impression he could make it like a horror movie, from what I understand, and
Yeah.
Marvel was like, no, 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 no. So, you know,
Yeah.
and I know they censor themselves a lot for China too. So
Yeah.
like it
Yeah.
doesn't make me hate the Marvel movies, but it does annoy me sometimes.
Yeah.
I wish that they would just once in a while, have like an intense character to not water it down for the movies.
Hmm. Yeah. They want to make money, and so they want a mass appeal to everybody.
Right, which is
Doesn't
kind
matter
of
what.
stupid though, because there have been plenty of R-rated movies, comic book movies that have done really well over the last few years.
Kick-Ass, for example. Yeah.
Kick-Ass, Logan, the Deadpool movies.
Yeah.
You know, there's plenty. There is a wide audience for these movies,
Mm-hmm.
and I think Fox and Warner Brothers kind of have figured that out. But I think
Yeah.
Disney is still too afraid to do that. It's either Disney or Kevin Feige. But I don't think Disney's ever released an R-rated movie now. You know, that I'm
Yeah.
thinking.
They have not. Yeah.
So yeah, I think they're just trying too much to, stay with their brand, family-friendly brand. But
Right.
it's
Right.
getting a little annoying sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes me think we're never actually going to see a cool movie version of Ghost Rider or Punisher or even Blade at this point if they just
Yeah.
keep watering things down.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we'll see.
And so yeah, that during the reveal that she's Agatha Harkness, there was like a montage, and
Yeah.
one thing that was noticeable for me is that there was the Evan Peters introduction scene. She was in the background, kind of
Yeah.
manipulating him, and so a lot of people were theorizing that he was going to be a villain. But it seems like he was just being manipulated by her, so that when the hex comes down, he'll still be there, hopefully, but as himself.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm hoping for, at least, because I think he's a
Yeah.
good character.
Me
Um,
too. I really want Quicksilver to come back,
yeah,
whether it's Evan Peters or Aaron Taylor Johnson.
right.
uh, well, I did. Did you watch the end credit scene?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, so Monica is still in the hex, and she found the basement and saw all those weird purple vines, and
Yeah,
then Pietro, or he sneaks up
right.
behind her. So it's not clear if Pietro is going to be on Monica's side, like helping her, or if she's going, or if he
Right.
is like working for Harkness, basically. He seemed a
Yeah.
lot more self aware than everybody else, so I'm not sure if that's
Mhm.
because he's working for her, or for another reason.
Right. I heard a theory. This was from last week's episode, so there's some elements of it that are
Yeah,
obsolete now, but
yeah.
it was basically saying that Doctor Strange he kind of plucked him out of the multiverse and kind of put him
Hmm.
in to try to reach Wanda, and so
Yeah,
that could be what's happening or not. We don't
right. That
know.
would be interesting. Like that scene kind of made it seem like Harkness was a part of bringing him there, but who knows?
Right.
Yeah. So the last few minutes when Wanda goes down into like Harkness's
Mhm.
lair, that was interesting. I didn't really know where it was going, because
Right.
I was kind of expecting like we said earlier, like Nightmare or Mephisto.
Mhm.
So then she reveals that she's Agatha Harkness. I was like, oh, okay. I didn't really know a whole lot about that character, to be honest. And
Yeah.
she's kind of obscure. And then like we do see that one book at one point is like glowing like on a table. It looks kind of like a spell book or something. Like
Yeah. Some people have mentioned that it looks like a book from the show Agents of Shield. I don't
yeah,
know. I haven't seen much of that show, but
yeah. I don't remember what they did with that book. It's called the Dark Hold. They used
hmm
it, I believe, in like season 4 or something, but I'm pretty sure they
okay.
destroyed her to get rid of it, and it looked a little different. But I could be wrong. It could be the same book. I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
really know how that would actually. It could be. I can't remember what they did with the Dark Hold. I think they might have actually like altered reality with it. So maybe that it is
Mhm.
something. We'll see, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, then we see that Agatha has like purple energy, kind of like Wanda's red energy, which is interesting. And she
Yeah.
even says like do you think you're the only magic girl, which makes it seem like Wanda's powers are magic based, which
hmm
we know from the comics but weren't officially like canon, in the MCU.
Right.
So that's interesting. So yeah, what do you want to see in the next couple episodes that we haven't seen before, the last two?
Um, I just want to see at some point that Quicksilver is a good guy and that he'll be part of the
Yeah.
universe moving forward. So I really like
Yeah.
that character. Um, I want to see more of Maria because
Yeah.
based on this series, I think she's a really good, interesting character, and I hope they develop her
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, me too.
Um,
Yeah, for me, yeah, I definitely want to see more Quicksilver and want to see him in the rest of the MCU going forward.
right.
I want to see Maria kind of like power up by the end and actually use her powers, in a cool
Yeah.
way. And I would like to, like a couple of the actors. I think both Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen have teased like some crazy cameo at the end. So I'm
Yeah.
I'm hoping it's actually as like crazy as they're saying it is, and not just like haha Captain Marvel. It's like it was not something like that. And I also would like to see them somehow like expand more about Wanda's powers and hopefully
Sure.
even reveal that she's like a mutant or something, because I would really that would be a cool way to bring mutants into the MCU, but also kind of retcon that they couldn't make them mutants originally,
Right.
But I
Right.
guess we'll see.
Today, yeah, I'm talking about WandaVision episode 8, titled Previously On. And so this episode is a lot of exposition and flashbacks, kind of explaining everything. To be honest, I didn't really like it because I feel like everything that was revealed, we already kind of knew and or suspected, and it didn't really give anything new or unique. Now, I'm going to just talk about this episode because I know a lot of you probably enjoyed it, so I'm not going to like hammer it. I'm not going to talk about every bad thing because I know some of you liked it, and that's okay. That's cool. Like what you like. Anyway, so the episode is titled Previously On. Like I mentioned, it's a lot of the flashbacks and exposition. It opens up in the Salem witch trials, although it's not actually the Salem. It opens up. The opening scene takes place during the Salem witch trials, but it's not actually the Salem witch trials. In the comics, Agatha Harkness has a tie with that, and she was a witch, and she kind of sold her soul to the devil, and that's how she survived the trials. But in this, it's not. It's. I don't know why they did that. Why they tried to tie it into the Salem witch trials, but then like they didn't, because this is not anything to do with the witch trials at all. It's a witch on trial in front of other witches. So it's I don't know. But anyway, she was like using magic that was like ahead of her like level, and then other witches got upset and they started shooting her with blue magic. But then she used like purple magic and it kind of like killed all of them. So that might be interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if they later pointed out that like the different levels of magic, like blue is maybe the weakest, then purple, then red. I don't know. We'll have to see how it works. From there, we cut back to the present day. Agatha is chilling in the basement talking about her runes and stuff. One thing I noticed is that one of the runes is shaped like an M. So that could be for Mephisto, Magneto, a multiverse. I don't know. I was trying to think of a joke, but I can't even. A lot of people talk about how this show is maybe influenced by the storyline House of M. So if you wanted to maybe draw that connection, it's there. But anyway, from there she basically uses her magic to jump into to revisit traumatic moments in Wanda's life. And it kind of explains everything that's been going on in the show. Like I mentioned, we pretty much suspected it. Wanda grew up watching American sitcoms. This scene, they're watching The Dick Van Dyke Show, which was the inspiration for episode 1. And then it's obviously the bomb part, which we later find out that Wanda was apparently born with magic, which is maybe a hint that she was mutant from the beginning, and the Mind Stone just kind of expanded upon that. Anyway, so she's used a probability hex to make sure the bomb doesn't blow up, because that's the only time in all of the MCU that we see one of Tony Stark's things not work. I mean, you could make an argument for Mark 47 was that the suit in Iron Man 3, but that was a prototype, so that doesn't really count. Like, this is an actual bomb that was actually used. That was actually like fully developed, and it didn't work. So probability hex, and that goes back to originally her powers were just like manipulating the odds of something happening, and it kind of evolved after that to just being a full-on witch. From there, we go to Hydra experimenting on her. Now, I heard people talk about this, that if she was a witch and she survived the experimentation, how come her brother did as well? Is he a witch, or like what's the deal with that? I'll probably never get an answer to that, because I don't see Aaron Taylor Johnson's Pietro ever showing up again. Maybe he will show up. Who knows? But yeah, so maybe like she used some of her powers to help protect him, or maybe he had a little bit of something going on as well. We don't know. But the thing that happens here is she kind of sees the stone and it like explodes, and then she sees the Scarlet Witch kind of in the sky, and she kind of descending down. But the thing is that the security tapes, they didn't really see any of that. It just skips over that. So I've heard some theories online that say maybe she edited that clip, or maybe the entire thing just happened in her mind. And there's different ways you can interpret that scene. And then after that, we meet up with Wanda and Vision. They're at the Avengers compound. I believe that is in upstate New York. This is just after Ultron, before Civil War. They're meeting. They're watching Malcolm in the Middle, which of course was an inspiration for the show. They're talking about trauma and stuff, and just stuff like that. And then after that, we meet up with Wanda after Endgame. She breaks into Sword, and she talks to Hayward. I almost said Wayward Hayward. She talks with director Hayward, and something that's interesting is, well, this is just kind of like a little thing that I picked up on, is that, well, I didn't pick up on it, someone else on the internet picked up. I'm just stealing ideas, you know how it is. Basically, in episode 4, when we first met Hayward, he introduced himself to Monica as acting director, because technically she was supposed to be the director, but she got snapped away. But in this, he introduces himself to Wanda as director, because she wouldn't know any different. Anyway, so they're kind of messing around with the Vision's body, and at this point it looks like they're just kind of taking it apart just to like use it for something else. And she breaks into it, breaks the glass, and she's like, I can't feel anything. And then she leaves, and she's all sad. And there are like the deed to this house in Westview. It's, how did this come here? Did she already have it? Did she know she have it? Did someone put it there? We don't know. We don't know how she got to this place. But I really like it when she's driving through Westview, and it's kind of a crappy town. And so it's almost like maybe she's doing these people a favor. Obviously, she's taking over their minds and hijacking that, and that's not cool. But maybe, like, this new life maybe is in some way better than the old life. There's definitely an argument there. I don't know, whatever. Then she goes to the house, but it's like nothing, and she's upset. And then from there, she warps all reality into the Dick Van Dyke Show, and Vision shows up, and it's all fun. Then we cut back to present day in the basement, and I'm not sure at what point does she turn a cicada into a bird and feed it to her rabbit. That was really weird. But yeah, so I don't know how she got to Westview, like why specifically Westview. We don't know that yet. We know that the Vision that we saw in Westview is not the real Vision, just kind of something she created based off of like her memory of Vision. So this brings up the question of like, why was he not under her control? Like, there's a lot of parts where Vision is like questioning the reality, and it also comes back to the kids. I think that they're not really there either. They are whatever the Vision is, whether it's just she created a brand new thing, or she just kind of just pretends that they're there. They're just based on of like memories or whatever. They're not really there. Either she created brand new life, which is crazy. It's definitely plausible, but the implications of that are huge. So she either creates new life, or she's just kind of she's just kind of projecting them there. They're not actually there. So there's two different ideas for that. We know that Evan Peters is not that. So the Vision and the twins are something different than Pietro, because Agatha, or Agnes, or whatever you want to call her, she said that she possessed Pietro and used him as kind of her eyes and ears, and which to me would say like, oh, so she pulled him out of the Fox universe and possessed him, and now he's in the MCU. That's my interpretation of what she said. But it could be completely different. Maybe she just kind of made it up, because she said she couldn't use the regular Pietro, the Aaron Taylor Johnson version, because he was shot up on a different continent. Also, the continent was slammed into the ground, so I'm surprised there's even a body left at all. From there, Agatha ropes up the twins, and she's like, I'm going to kill these twins. You're the Scarlet Witch, and you're really powerful, and blah, 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 blah. And that's the end of the episode. So I honestly think that those twins aren't really there. They're just kind of projections. They're not real people. So the stakes, I don't know if Agatha knows that. I don't know if Wanda knows that. But, yeah. She's like, you are the Scarlet Witch. Which, is that like a prophecy? Or is she like the chosen one? Or is that like a rank? Because early on in the episode, they're like, back in the Salem Witch era, they're like, you're using powers that are beyond your level. So is the Scarlet Witch like the top level? Is it like a prophecy, like the chosen one or whatever? I don't know. We'll have to see next week. Oh, the end credit scene. I almost forgot. It cuts outside of the hex, and we see that they finally found a purpose for the Vision's body. They built it up into White Vision, which in the comics is kind of like the Vision's body, and it's all technically there, but his soul and emotions are not there. And so I could definitely see this something happening where Wanda's projection or memory of Vision battles the White Vision, and either they combine to resurrect the Vision, or they both die. I really hope that Evan Peters stays in the MCU as a good guy, because I would love that. What I really want to see, like Monica, Vision, and Evan Peters just kind of teaming up to battle whatever the final battle is, whether that's Wanda, Agatha, or Vision, or some combination, or White Vision, some combination of that. I really like to see that. We do know that it ties in directly to Doctor Strange too, so I wouldn't be surprised if there's like a cliffhanger or like a not happy ending, because they're going to tie it into that as well. And it's rumored that Wanda's maybe the villain of that. So we'll have to see where that goes. But yeah, comment down below what you think. What do you think the cameo is that Paul Bettany was talking about? There's a lot of people online that think it's just himself, because he's now playing two characters in the show. So there's definitely like he could just be acting with himself and he's just trolling everybody. What do you think about that? You click the links, Facebook, Instagram, all that fun stuff. New podcast coming out very soon, where we talk about unpopular opinions. We address some of the unpopular opinions of our people on Instagram. So if you want to check that out, the link will be in the description, if it's out already. But I will see you next time. Peace out.